Hi guitar players, and welcome back to my channel. In blues lick lesson number 9, I'll teach you how to play that slow blues phrase in the key of C minor that you just heard, and I'll show you 2 stylish variations on it. For this lesson, I thought it would be interesting to focus on slow blues licks that skip strings. Maybe you're already familiar with the minor pentatonic scale and the minor blues scale, but you're struggling to break out of those scale patterns. Well, in that case, you're definitely in the right place with this video. Also, you'll learn something about targeting chord tones in a blues turnaround, and at the end of the video, I'll teach you some hybrid picking. If you're new here, the main goal for my channel is to inspire your guitar playing by sharing ideas, solos, lessons, and jam tracks. And if this is the stuff you like, please consider subscribing. That really helps me out. As always, you can follow the tabs on the screen during the video or download the free PDF from my blog. There's a link to that in the description below. All right, let's dive in. The track has a 12/8 time signature, meaning every beat is subdivided into 3 8th notes. And this creates a triplet feel, a group of 3 feel, a rhythmic feel I like a lot for a slow blues. The C minor blues lick I'll teach you is actually a turnaround. It's a 2-part blues phrase that fits over the last 2 bars of a blues chorus. And let me start by showing you the chords we're playing over. That's C minor. The track is in C minor. Then F minor. Back to C minor. And then G minor. Each chord lasting for 2 beats. Now, what to play over these chords? And when I'm looking for new ideas for new licks, I like to play little games. For example, let's avoid the root, or let's avoid bends, or let's play on 1 string. And the game we're playing today is we're skipping strings. Well, we're mostly skipping the B string, and in some cases the A or D string. Now, how does this relate to our scale, to the C minor pentatonic that you can see here on your screen, that famous box position? And let me add the flat 5, the blue note, and that makes it the C minor blues scale. Well, if we're skipping over the B string, you can see those are the notes we are going to avoid. Okay? That's all you need to know before we take the lick apart and we start looking into it in more detail. As you can see, our blues turnaround has 2 parts, and part 1 is a short melodic idea on the G string. Bend the 10th fret on that G string half a step up. So the pitch we're aiming for is that G flat that you can find here on the 11th fret of that same G string. That's the flat 5 in C minor, so that makes it the blue note. Perform this bend with your 3rd finger supported by your 2nd and 1st finger, and pick the string with a downstroke. Now, when I recorded this lick a few times, I noticed that very often I'm bending a little bit less than half a step, more of a 1/4 step bend, so somewhere in between the F here, the 10th fret, and that 11th fret, the G flat. Somewhere in between is a pitch that doesn't have a fret, that's a 1/4 step above the F here. So in blues, 1/4 step bends are very common. These are microtonal bends. They take some practice, but they are a lot of fun. So you can choose either a 1/4 step bend or a half step bend, but I wouldn't do more than that. When you release the bend, after it's fully released, hit the string again, this time with an upstroke. And then release your 3rd finger to expose the 8th fret, pick the string again with a downstroke, and then quickly hammer on again with your 3rd finger to that 10th fret. Now you can stay on this 10th fret a little bit longer and give it some vibrato. At the end of that first bar, release back to the 8th fret, so pull off. And typically this would resolve now to the root C here on the 10th fret of that D string. But since we're trying to do things differently here, let's slide to that same root C on the 5th fret of the G string. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Part 2 is where the actual string skipping occurs. First, play the 8th fret on the E string with an upstroke. And this upstroke is very important as it starts an upward motion of our picking hand. And this is exactly what we need to be able to skip over that B string. You see, the next note we're playing is again that 10th fret on the G string that we're playing with a downstroke. So up, string skip, down, up, string skip, down. And we're not exactly staying on that 10th fret here, it's a grace note, so we're quickly sliding it to the 11th fret here, to that blue note and back. That 11th fret is the first of a triplet of 3 16th notes. 11th fret, 10th fret, and then a pull off to the 8th fret. So all this is done with 2 picks, upstroke, string skip, downstroke, slide back and forth, and then a pull off to the 8th fret. And we're ending our lick with another string skip, so this time we're skipping over the D string to the 10th fret on the A string. The underlying chord here is the G minor. That's the 5 chord in C minor, and a 5 chord in a blues always means that there's another chorus coming. So why not emphasize this by playing the root of that chord? So if you're unsure what to play over chord changes, just target the root of the chord. That's a very simple device that you can immediately start adding to your playing. This 10th fret on the A string is played with a downstroke. After we did the previous downstroke on the G string, there's more than enough time to move our picking hand up towards the A string. And you see, if you want, you can give that last 8th fret here on the G string a little nudge. That's another quarter step bend, if you like. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Let's take a look at the first variation of our lick. Shift and reverse is the name of our first variation. And here I pushed the string skipping lick to the end of the bar, and in a way I'm playing it in the opposite direction. And I don't know if that makes any sense to you, so let me just play it for you. In this first variation, part 1 is completely identical. So let me take a look at part 2, where things do look a bit different. Now when the G minor chord arrives, our 5 chord, I'm playing a trill from the 8th to the 10th fret on the A string. So first pick the A string, the 8th fret, played with your first finger, hammer on to the 10th fret with your 3rd finger without picking the string, pull off again, back to the 8th fret, again without picking the string, hammer on again, pull off, and when we're rapidly alternating between hammer-ons and pull-offs, you get a trill. TR means trill, and only use one downstroke. And this is a cool effect that again emphasizes the root of the G minor chord. Previously we just played the root, now we're emphasizing the root with a trill. So we're playing the root alternated with the 8th fret here. That's an F, so that would imply a G minor 7 chord. The F is the flat 7 of G minor. And what's nice to know is that this little trick, playing a trill from the root to the flat 7 on the 5 chord in a slow blues, that's a classic move. So definitely something you should start adding to your playing. Now what about that string skipping? Like I told you, we delayed playing the lick, so you can see or you can recognize parts of that lick there on your right side. But instead of starting on that 8th fret of the E string, we're now ending on that 8th fret of the E string with an upstroke. So in a sense, it's like we're playing it in the opposite direction, because we're starting with that slide and pull off pattern. So again, from the 10th fret on the G string, slide to the 11th fret, that's the blue note, and back, pull off to the 8th fret. And then I added one more note before we do a big string skip. That's the 10th fret on the D string. That's also the root C. And this sets us up for a big string skip to that 8th fret on the E string. So we're jumping over 2 strings here. You can see, again, I'm making a little bar here. I place a little bar over the first 3 strings of the guitar to facilitate these types of string skips. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So that's shift and reverse, our first variation to our slow blues string skipping lick in C minor. And I really wanted to share it with you to show you what the possibilities are when you start moving bits and pieces of a lick around. For example, by delaying that string skipping lick, suddenly it made more sense to end with the root C rather than start with it. The point here is I really want to encourage you to always stay creative with each new lick that you learn. It can be great to be able to reproduce a lick perfectly, especially if it's a famous guitar lick, but I hope you see that every new lick that you learn brings new ingredients that you can use in many different places. So always tailor the lick to the context where you're using it. And when you're playing around with ideas, suddenly you start remembering things. And when I was writing this lesson, this variation number 1, I suddenly remembered a great technique I heard Stevie Ray Vaughan use for the first time in a slow blues. And that technique is hybrid picking. And that's what our final variation is all about. It's called Stevie's Hybrids. This final variation is quite a bit different, although it starts in a similar way. In bar 1, you can recognize that melodic motif on the G string, or at least the first part of it. What follows is very different. First, there's a pickup of 3 16th notes, the first one just being the 10th fret on the D string, and I'm picking the string with a downstroke, and I'm using my 3rd finger on the fret. But what follows is played by hybrid picking. And hybrid picking is one of my favorite picking hand techniques, so I'm very excited to share it with you. Now, what we are going to do is we'll be playing the notes on the G string with the pick, playing downstrokes, while at the same time we'll be playing the 8th fret on the E string with our 3rd finger. The 3rd finger of our picking hand, that is. And this is hybrid picking, playing with the pick and one or more of the fingers of our picking hand at the same time. And in a way, this is the ultimate form of string skipping, as we're playing the E and G string at the same time while ignoring the B string in between. Let's take a look. So first play the 8th fret on the G string, played with a downstroke. And while you're playing this one, pluck the E string with your 3rd finger, playing the 8th fret on that string. And again, very important, I'm forming a bar at the 8th fret with my index finger. So I'm picking the G string with a downstroke, and I'm plucking the E string in an upward motion with my 3rd finger. Follow it up with the 10th fret on the G string, keeping that bar at the 8th fret in place. So we're staying on the 8th fret for the E string. And as you can see in the rest of the lick, we're only playing the 8th fret on that E string. And this is the C. Our track is in C minor. That makes the C our tonic or our tonal center, the most important note in our track. So in essence, we're playing a C minor blues lick while pasting the C on top of every note we're playing. By the way, the finger-picked notes might sound a bit darker, and in that case, try to add a little bit of nail when you're hitting the string. What follows in the next bar is a variation on that blue note lick that we played earlier. So do a hammer-on from the 10th to the 11th fret with your pinky. So that's the blue note, while we're keeping that 1st finger bar in place, and I'm keeping my 3rd finger at the 10th fret. Picking the G string and plucking the E string with my 3rd finger. And to be clear, we're only hitting the strings once. We're not picking for that hammer-on, nor are we hybrid picking. Just let that 8th fret on the E string ring during that hammer-on. Next is the 10th fret on the G string. Played again at the same time as the 8th fret on the E string. Back to the 8th fret on the G string. Then another hammer-on to the 10th fret on the G string. Pick it again and then do a pull-off to the 8th fret on the G string. So you can see while I'm holding this bar, I have access to a lot of notes of the C minor blues scale. To end this variation, we're outlining the 5 chord again with this little hybrid lick. So I'm extending the bar here at the 8th fret to the D string. I'm hammering on from the 8th to the 9th fret with my 2nd finger. We haven't used the 2nd finger a lot. And then with my middle finger or 3rd finger, you can choose, I'm plucking the 8th fret on the B string. And this is the root G. So just like before, we're emphasizing the fact that we're playing over the G minor chord here with this little hybrid lick that skips over the G string. And we're continuing this motif on the 1 chord. So in the next bar, we're back to C minor. Slide from the 12th to the 13th fret on the D string. I'm using my middle finger. When my middle finger lands on the 13th fret, then you can plug the 13th fret on the B string, again with your middle finger or your 3rd finger to hit that C here. One, two, three, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That concludes Blues Lick lesson number 9, and thank you for watching and playing along, and I hope you found some inspiration in here that helps you on your journey of becoming a better blues guitar player. I think it's a lifelong journey. Which one of the variations did you like the most, or maybe you prefer the lick we started with? Let me know in the comments below. I welcome all your thoughts, suggestions and feedback, so feel free to post something below the video. If you haven't already, consider subscribing to the Guitar Inspiration channel. You'll be joining over 1,500 subscribers, a big milestone, and I'm very, very, very grateful for all your support. Also, a special thank you to my supporters at buymeacoffee.com. If you want, you can support me and my channel over there. There's a link to my Buy Me a Coffee page also in the description below. I hope to see you again in another video. Bye bye.